Stocks versus ETFs. What's the difference? Alright, so let's start with some definitions. So a stock is a share of ownership in a business. Examples include American Express and MasterCard. Now an ETF is a basket of stocks or other assets. Examples include XLY, which is the consumer discretionary sector, and the S&P 500 ETF. Now, this is an example of what the S&P 500 ETF looks like. It's just a basket of 500 of the largest companies in the United States. You can have other types of ETFs, such as a tech sector ETF. So a tech sector ETF would just have only tech companies, or you can have a financial sector ETF that just tracks the financial services companies. But you can also have different types of other ETFs, like a commodity ETF or a bond ETF. So an ETF is just a basket of stocks or other securities. In order for us to really appreciate the difference between stocks and ETFs, we're going to look at the difference in their risk and return. So we're going to look at NVIDIA and we're going to compare it to the tech sector ETF, the NASDAQ 100. So the 5-year return for NVIDIA has been about 1,257%. So this means if you put $1,000 in NVIDIA 5 years ago, today you would have about $13,570. Now if you put, so the 5-year return for the NASDAQ 100 has been 83%. So that means if you put $1,000 into the NASDAQ 100 5 years ago, today you would have about $1,830. So you can see the difference in the return between picking a single stock and buying a whole ETF. Now you may be thinking, all right, it's a no-brainer. I'm just going to buy stocks, put my money in stocks. But we're going to look at now the potential risk of stocks versus ETFs. So we're going to look at Beyond Meat, which was a very popular stock around 2020, 2021, when the world was moving towards plant-based diets. So the 5-year return for Beyond Meat has been minus 99.5%. So this means if you put the same $1,000 into Beyond Meat 5 years ago, today you would have $4.30. Now we're going to look at the S&P 500. So this is the 30-year return in the S&P 500. So the 30-year return for the S&P 500 has been 823%. So if you had put $1,000 in the S&P 500 30 years ago, today you would have about $9,230. Now this number actually doesn't include dividends. If we had included dividends in this number, it would have been significantly more. Now we're going to look at this graphically. So we're going to compare ETFs and stocks. So stocks generally have higher risk than ETFs. But for this higher risk, you also can have a potential higher return. The keyword here is potential. So stocks, if you pick the right stocks, you can significantly have a higher return than ETFs. So whether you go for ETFs or stocks is completely up to your risk appetite. ETFs generally have lesser risk, but also offer a less potential return than stocks. So hopefully this helps, and see you in the next video.